We got more prizes. Don't worry about it. All right. So, pleased to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Julien. Richard, your last name?
Yeah.
Julien Richard. Thank you.
I've been called much worse.
You got the public?
Yep. Okay, perfect. Mic's working. Hi, thank you for staying here and coming to my talk. I guess I used a title called Beyond Lock and Key Authentication in Evolving Cyberlines. Sounds very, but instead I kind of subtitle it, what the is phishing resistant MFA anyways? So what I want everybody to take away from this presentation is really talk about traditional challenges to traditional MFA solutions and why we should transition to phishing resistant MFA. And we'll go into the challenges of those traditional MFA, and then we'll go through what phishing resistant MFA is and how it works. We'll get a bit technical. So bear with me, the first little part of this is not going to be that technical, but don't worry, we'll get into it. First of all, who am I? Julien, I'm from New Brunswick, flew here last night late, and I've got over 25 years experience in the IT field. My background's in pen testing, but lately I've been doing, I work as a director at Lastwall. We do a phishing resistant MFA solution, of course, so that's why I've become very well versed in this technology. I'm not here to sell anything, so don't worry. So as director over there, I run the security program, run the security team, make sure that we're following all the things we should do because we're in a heavy regulated environment. I'm also founder of I've got my own little consulting firm, but I'm the founder of the Atlantic Cybersecurity Collective. That's up there. I will sell this. If you go to that website, join the Discord server, there's a ton of people in there that are awesome cybersecurity folks, all like-minded, no fees, no vendors, you're not gonna get harassed there. If you want to join the Discord server, it's a lot of fun. Board member at the IC Square Atlantic chapter. I'm an advisory board member at the Canadian Cybersecurity Network. And sum it all up, I'm just passionate about cybersecurity and talking about it to anyone and everyone who will listen to me. And believe me, I will talk your ears off about cybersecurity. All right, so the agenda today. First of all, we're running a little bit late, so this MFA primer here section, I might be running through it pretty quickly. I assume that the crowd that we have here really understand what MFA is, but I'll still run through those slides. Just skip the rest of it, we'll get to it anyways. Multi-factor authentication. One thing I want to say is that this is the time, if you understand this really quickly, look at your phone, just answer your emails, whatever. But I do have puppy pictures for people that, I really do have puppy pictures. That's my puppy. One thing that I just want to define what MFA is. So if we talk about authentication, let's start at the end, right? Authentication is part of the access control system. And the access control system is not just authentication, there's other parts. First part being identification, right? And we'll get into this. This is an important part of our phishing resistant MFA, even though it's not really in the flow, but we have to consider identification. So identification is just your username, your user ID. Who are you? We could all use the same password in the system. We would have access to all the right information. We've probably been in those systems before, and they're not very secure. Star of the show is authentication. We're confirming who we are. We've identified ourselves. You'll see later, Harry Port Scanner, right? And we use the password to say that that is really who we are. And then the last part is authorization. Even though you're authenticated to a system, it doesn't mean that you can do anything on that system. It doesn't mean you can access that box. It doesn't mean you can access that shared file. You really need to have authorization too. But at the end of all of this, we really want to talk about authentication. More puppy pictures. Sorry, I get really excited and it got really loud here. So what is factor? Can somebody tell me what I mean by factors? Anybody? Ooh, lots of participation today. So in the context of multi-factor authentication, we're talking about a category of verification method. So something you know, something you have, something you are, right? We've all seen this. Something you know is a password, is a PIN, it's all kinds of stuff. Something you have can be your phone, your authenticator app on your phone. You're not going to remember those 6 digits that keep going, right? So you need to have your phone to be able to put in that second factor. And then something you are. Something you are is not often used in traditional MFA, mostly because, and I know a lot of you are going to say, yeah, I use Face ID all the time. I use my fingerprint. Yeah, it's not traditional MFA in the sense, because that Face ID or that fingerprint is really unlocking a certificate on your phone. It really is the next generation of MFA. Something that we use something UR for would be in physical security. Scan your card, put your hand down, and then you go, right? But we're talking about multi. Multi means more than one. I mean, I don't have to define, I don't have a slide for multi, of course. But you need more than one. If I tell you, give me your password and then give me the answer to your security question, that's not multi-factor. It's multi-step. It's one factor. It's two of something you know. So it's important to understand, it isn't MFA without the MF, right? Okay. Let's talk about the challenges of each factor, and I'll run through this really quickly. Something you know, the sticky notes, right? People write down their passwords, they put it under their keyboards, people find them. Breaches, passwords are in breaches. If you got your password hijacked for Twitter, and it's probably the same one you use for Facebook for most people, unfortunately. Social engineering and phishing, brute force attacks, if you just try over and over again. Key logging, somebody puts something on your computer, catches all the keys that you write, eventually they're going to find a password. Shoulder surfing, people behind you looking at you, attacker in the middle. Something you have, you can get your device stolen, right? You can have your, if anybody remembers those RSA keys that keep going, like probably there's still people using them, but people can steal those. SIM swapping is an important one, people pretending to be you, stealing your phone number so that when the SMS goes to your phone, all of a sudden it goes to their phone and not yours. Social engineering, phishing, malware, cloning, physical security, little flipper device. My hotel car's on this. Attacker in the middle again, or yeah, attacker in the middle. Something you are spoofing. They can't spoof you, but I mean maybe, but they can spoof your fingerprint, right? We've all seen those James Bond movies, pretty far-fetched, but hey, breaches. This is an important one. Just because you're scanning your fingerprint, what gets sent over the wire is a digital representation of your fingerprint. So if the other side has a database of all these digital representations of fingerprints, you can intercept that and take the digital representation of mine and then send the one for the person I'm trying to impersonate. Very interesting. Replay attacks, they kind of work with all of these, right? Just intercept the request and you replay it later. Social engineering and phishing, again, they can get you to do stuff. Quality attacks. Remember the iPhone when it first came out in Face ID? People were sleeping and you could unlock people's phone? Because like, they weren't checking if the eyes were open, right? And deepfakes, I'll talk about a breach later on where this is not really multi-factor, but I know a lot of banks in the US will use your voice recognition as a factor to authenticate you to make sure who you are. Deepfake is great, right? It's fun. And again, attacker in the middle. Notice something here? Like, defense in depth is great. If the sticky note factor is there, then you go to the next one, it's not gonna work. But notice how social engineering, phishing, and attacker in the middle is on every one of those. That's not defense in depth. That's being vulnerable to the same attack on those three factors, right? Trying to talk not too fast. I'm gonna take my pointer here just to go through a flow. Let's go through a quick flow of what a access control system looks like when you're authenticating. Bob and Alice are traditional characters whenever we try to do something in IT security. So Bob here is trying to log into an app. The app says, give me your login and password. You give the login and password, and then you go like, yeah, I trust you, but I'm a bit paranoid, so I'm gonna ask you for more. Choose a second authentication method. Choose a push notification. You get the push notification. You hit the push notification, and you go through your logged in. So username and password, it's pretty easy, right? You find a breach, you take the username, password, you put it in, you get logged in. But what do you do as an attacker when you have this push, this second factor, right? Well, we solved that, us attackers. Send an email to the victim, somebody's gonna click, you click the email, goes to a phishing website, steal the credentials, you log in. That's pretty simple. But in a meddler in the middle or an attacker in the middle situation, what you do is you seriously intercept the stuff you present. We saw a couple of presentations today, and I was pretty happy to see that because they were showing this already, where it looks just like the AWS login form, just like it. But if you look at the domain name, it's different. But what's happening is that you're putting in your credential, you're forwarding, and let's say that I'm in the middle here, I'm the attacker, right? I actually forward those credentials over to the target web server. Target web server goes, hey, that's a good username and password. How about you send me your 2FA code? They like through another channel, they actually send the 2FA code to the user. I don't answer it. I actually send it back to the victim. The victim enters the 2FA code, sends it back over. I send it back over to the target web server. And it's very important to understand that in today's world, or in the HTTP world, since the beginning, I shouldn't say today, is that there's no concept of session in a web server. I'm probably saying something that a lot of you understand, but still, there's no concept of session in the HTTP protocol. You need to, if you didn't have a way to say, hey, I'm already logged in, every time you click on something, you would have to put in your username and password, and that would not be fun. So we've solved this by using a session token that we give, and then you present every time that you send a request. So if you have that session token, it's just like you're logged in, right? You don't have to have the username and password. So if I steal that session token, it means that I can just go on the website and act just like the user. And once I'm there, I can add more authentication methods, I can add more users, I can change my password, I can do all kinds of these things, right? So in this case, we're stealing the session cookie. Now, you're gonna say, hey, I don't really get it. Well, I'm gonna show you, right? Here's a great little tool called EvilGenX, which is a reverse proxy phishing framework that bypasses traditional MFA. So what I'm doing here, I've set this all up. I created my own DNS server. I've created my own DNS entry. And this thing actually gives me the certificates, the TLS certificates. It does everything. So let's see how it works. I hope this is going to play. Oh, no, it's because I have my pointer. There you go. All right. So this is a GitHub repo where you can get this. This is all free. Anybody can do it. So I'm going to start up. I don't have enough rights, so of course I'm going to have to sudo. And do a bit of housekeeping here so it doesn't really pollute the terminal. And I'm going to show you that the fishlets that I've used, there's an Amazon template. I enabled the Amazon template. I created a lore, which is it takes the template, puts it in its own directory, gives me a URL. I go to that URL, or I try to fish the user with that URL, and we'll see. So right now I'm in that web server. It's out in the cloud somewhere. And I'm going to go back to my own machine on a browser and visit this site. Again, you may not trust me, so I'm just going to show you first that I am not logged into AWS. You're going to see some alt-tabbing stuff. It's virtual, so I thought I could alt-tab here, and stuff's just going to show up. So this is actual Amazon site. You can see I was not logged in. I take that site. You're going to love this because my domain that I own is called finalreport.zip. Here's the final report. Log into your, I don't know why you would log into your AWS account to get the final report, but hey. Finalreport.zip, you can see, same site, exact same look as the Amazon site. Here's my alt-tabbing stuff. It was pretty late, so bear with me. Username, like I said, is called Harry Port Scanner. And I'm going to put in my password. And in this case, it's going to ask me for my multi-factor authentication. If you look at the domain name, it's still finalreport.zip. It's still my attacker machine that's in the middle. Forgot to open up my phone, so now I'm unlocking. Forgot my password. There you go. Finally. Come on, Julien. Got it in, submitted. In a perfect world, and this was not a perfect world. In a perfect world, this would forward you, log you in, get you to Amazon. They changed something while I was building this, and it actually doesn't bring me in. But as you can see now, I'm on the actual Amazon website. And the user would probably just go, hey, I'm not logged, I'll try again. And it's going to work. It's going to log them in. But let's see what happens on my little attacker machine here. Well, you know what? I'm logged in. I got the username, I got the password, I got the session token. Yes, the password is Dumbledore sucks. and I'm gonna show the sessions and grab the cookie. This is my session token. Gave me my session token. Go back to Amazon. First, I save it as a JSON file. If only I could type, I could go faster. Come on. Jeez. All right, saved it. I just used a add-on to add some cookies. And cookie editor, I'm gonna import my JSON file. And go back to Amazon services, and I will, because I have the right session token, remember, I don't have to put my username every time. Boom, I'm logged in as Mr. Harry Port Scanner. And it logs me in. And if you, like, attackers are doing this. They're 100% doing this. People are gonna click on links. You can intercept these things. So how do we make it so that we can't intercept this? How do we make their jobs harder? They started with just passwords, now they're doing MFA. They're gonna figure out a way at some point, and when I say they, I mean attackers or red teamers. They're gonna figure out a way to bypass phishing resistant MFA, but right now it's making their job really hard. So what is phishing resistant MFA? Well, we've got an ingredients list, right? There's some certain, I don't like the word components, but I'm French, so whatever. We need strong binding between the authenticator and the user identity. Right now, if you use a username, you can use the username wherever you want. You can use the, sorry, not the username, but the password. You can use it anywhere you want. In this case, you are tying the authenticator, so the, your YubiKey, you're tying it to a specific website, and you're tying it to only you. So if I use the private key that's on here for Amazon, and I try to log into Google, it's not gonna work. I need to also register this at Google. We're trying to eliminate shared secrets. Passwords, as you can see, are easily interceptable. And we only want to respond to trusted parties. And we're gonna use some pretty cool technology to do this. So that trusted party, that final report.zip, was not a trusted party. We only want to talk to Amazon. And user intent is a huge one. We've all heard the push fatigue, right? MFA fatigue. I mean, you're sitting at dinner and you just keep getting pushes. And after a while, you're just gonna be like, yeah, whatever. And then the attacker gets your machine, right? You never intended to log into this site. With phishing-resistant MFA, it's not gonna work unless you want to log in. Nobody can send you any of these requests. And what kind of technologies? Public-private cryptography. I'm not gonna get too deep into this, but we have to remember that we create a private key that we hold to ourselves and a public key that we give to everybody else. Anything that I encrypt with my private key can only be decrypted with my public key, which proves that I'm the one that encrypted it because nobody else has that private key. And then if you encrypt something with the public key, I'm the only one that can decrypt it because nobody else has my private key. So it's asymmetric cryptography. We leverage that a lot in here. Relying party this is more of a definition. Relying party in this world is a server. And then we need to define what the client, the user, and the authenticator is. The user is me, the client is my browser, because we're gonna be talking about the web authn version of phishing resistant MFA. So the user is me, the client is my browser, it's the application or whatever, and the authenticator is YubiKey. Which is a roaming authenticator. And then if you can use Windows Hello, you can use Face ID or whatever else, that's called the, it's going away from my mind for whatever reason. But anyways, platform authenticator. All right, let's try to get this fairly quick. I spoke earlier around identification, right? And this is something that's extremely important. That registration phase, that first phase where I say, I want an account on this site, that's identification. So if it's an open, public, a library or something, and it's okay, they're just gonna accept it. If it's a financial institution or something that's heavily regulated or whatnot, they might wanna do it out of band identification. It might get you, I know at my company, we get people to come in, we give them the YubiKey, we watch them touch the YubiKey to register it, so we know 100% that it's them. So the registration is not part of authentication, it really is part of identification. So you need to understand that when you register, that might be the place that you could get attacked. But, so let's just go ahead and say that I want to register, I send my username, the web server or the relying party sends a challenge back with my username, the challenge, which is a long string character, a nonce or whatever else, and information about the relying party, its domain name, all these things, right? When I get it through my browser right here and I see the challenge, how do I make sure that it's actually coming from the web server? Well, it's pretty easy these days because they said it's for Outlook.com. The browser looks at the HTTPS certificate and they go like, oh yeah, it really is Outlook.com. That's how you make the link between the relying party ID in the packet and ensuring that it's actually them that sent that. It's because it's coming from that website with the right certificate. So in other words, it doesn't work with HTTP. It just doesn't. I get that through my browser, goes to my authenticator, user intent attestation. I need to touch the key so that, yes, I really want, and that's an important part because I need this with me and I need to touch it. I need to use Face ID. I need to use my fingerprint on my computer. That's an important part. As soon as I do that, my key generates a new key pair, public-private, keeps the private key. It signs the challenge that I got from the web server with my private key and sends a whole bunch of information over. Web server receives it. If they can decrypt it with the public key, that's as part of that public-private key pair, and it's the same challenge, they go like, oh, yeah, it's really you. Awesome. I'm registered. Does that make sense? It's a weird flow, but all good. So how do I authenticate? Now I have my private key, they have my public key. How do I authenticate? Well, I start with a username, and they send me a challenge with my credential ID. Because I could have this, I could have my Face ID, I could have a bunch of different things, and it'll only work with one of those. So if I have 3 different devices, 2 or 3 different YubiKeys register with this web server, I need to understand which one to use. So it's going to send me an ID. When I get it, same thing, credential ID, challenge, relying party ID. I check with the HTTP certificate. I look up because the browser bar is over there, so that's why the certificate is there, right? So grab the certificate and make sure it matches their relying party ID that they sent. Go in my YubiKey, touch it. Again, I really do want to log in, grab that challenge, sign it with my private key, send it over, and they'll say, hey, that's really you because you're the only one that has that private key, which is important, right? And we'll look at it at this a bit later on when I talk about attacks, because Google and Apple are doing something kind of funky with the private key. I'll spoil it. They're storing it in the cloud, which isn't protected with phishing-resistant MFA. So if you can phish their iCloud account, grab the private key, then you can sign in and sign with anything that you want, which is bizarre. All right, more demo. Oh, pointer, sorry. All right, I'm gonna try to do the same thing, but I registered this exact YubiKey. I'm gonna put it in my pocket because I don't want anybody to steal it now. Oh, and this too, because I don't want you in my hotel room. Port scanner, this is Amazon, touch my YubiKey, boom, I'm logged in. Just to show that my YubiKey actually worked. I'm just gonna log out, clear all my cookies, do everything I need to do. Speaking of, there's cookies here, if anybody's hungry. I'm gonna go back to my phishing site, my finalreport.zip file site that I own. Just gonna do a little bit of things here. Get the URL. Oh no, I want to show you that I don't have any saved session, which I didn't do before, but trust me. Here's my URL. I'm gonna go over. Oh, yeah. Well, if you ever wonder what Dumbledore sucks, when you do a Google search, well, there it was, because I didn't copy the link correctly. It's something 10 reasons why Dumbledore sucks. Go. Now you know my password. All right, as you can see, this is finalreport.zip. I touch my signing key, nothing. Because it looks at the HTTPS request, and it goes, you're not Amazon.com. It's not gonna work. But see here, password is there. So I did intercept the password. Cool. So now that I've convinced everybody to go to phishing-resistant MFA, what are the roadblocks to get there? Well, technology doesn't support it. We've got this old AS400 thing that, yeah, if you think that that's going to support phishing-resistant MFA, it's not going to. But hey, you know what? Enable it in Office 365, enable it in your Google, enable it where you can, right? It's better than nothing. Too much too soon, people, it crashes, nobody can log in and everything else. We've solved this problem multiple times before in this industry. Start with your IT crew, start with your system admin, figure out what the bugs are, use your lessons learned, and then when you start implementing it for more people, you know what can go wrong and how to fix it. There's perceived user friction. It's actually easier, it's actually a lot easier to touch a key than to remember 20,000 passwords. And that's something that's going to be very important to talk to your executives, right? Your senior leaders. And if the messaging comes from the top, like anything else, again, we solve this. I don't have to tell you this. IT staff training, well, if you're not training your staff, I mean, what's the old joke? What if I train my staff and they go? They go like, yeah, but what if we don't train them and they stay, right? And cost. Well, I was a part of an incident response where the company was losing $1 million a day. And the reason it got popped was because the IT admin had put a file called password.jpg on his desktop and thought that if I take a photo of the password, they're not going to find it. But he called it password.jpg, and it was the password to the password manager. $1 million a day. Rolling out YubiKeys is not going to cost you $1 million a day. It's going to cost you, but not $1 million a day. So why should I? Well, the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, in one of their documentation where they're talking about attack companies, APT, advanced persistent threat, they say multi-factor authentication where feasible, implement it. The Office of Management and Budget in the US, they're basically saying this is a binding presidential order, which means that all the agencies need to do this, and they say, for agency staff, contractors, and partners, phishing-resistant MFA is required, and that's a binding presidential order. We will be forced to do this. The European Union Agency for Cybersecurity say, if possible, avoid using SMS and voice calls, and consider deploying phishing-resistant tokens. Who else? CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agencies, and the No Such Name Agency. Given the prevalence of phishing as an attack vector, phishing resistance should be a key consideration. I can keep going. NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology. This is important. SB 863, which talks about identity access and management. It's under comments right now. They're taking comments from the public. So if you want to go in, read what people are saying, and you want to chime in and have your words being read by NIST, it's a good place to go right now. They have a call for comments on this document. National Center for Cybersecurity in the UK, highly privileged access, need to involve phishing resistant MFA. Everybody's saying that you need this. And we're going to get regulated. When you get my slides, all the links are there. Right before this talk, I got this is a joint advisory from CISA and a bunch of other agencies, and part of the Stop Ransomware Snatch crew. Actions to take: enable and enforcing phishing-resistant multi-factor authentication. We're going to be forced to do this. Source. All right, case studies. How many times do you talk about MGM today? We don't have to talk about it again. Well, Phishing Kit is a kit, just like I showed you. The only difference is that people can pay $300 a month and have full-on help desk support to run this thing. And they're saying that in the 10 months, security researchers discovered that this was used to set up 850 50 phishing domains that targeted credentials for more than 56,000 Microsoft 365 accounts, and they compromised 8,000 of them using non-phishing traditional MFA. This was mostly business email compromise. So you compromise the email of the marketing person at your company and you go, hey, we're just onboarding a new vendor. Can you start sending $10,000 a month into this account? And it's coming from marketing at acme.com, right? So it's actually coming from your own company. Kroll. This is a fun one. Krebs on security. So these guys basically do bankruptcy. They help companies go through bankruptcy, and they help a lot of cryptocurrency companies, including FTX. A ton of money got stolen from these people. So Krebs on Security said, Kroll said it was informed that somebody targeted a T-Mobile phone number belonging to a Kroll employee in a highly sophisticated SIM swapping attack. Then goes on to say, Krebs on Security chronicled SIM swapping attacks claimed by these groups against T-Mobile employees in more than 100 separate incidents in the second half of 2022. Very sophisticated. They were able to do this 100 times in 6 months. Twilio got popped. This was, I believe, they were using Okta they stole credentials belonging to nearly 10,000 individuals. We're not doing well, guys. Many more. Meatpacking, JBS, that was a fish, stole stuff. Dropbox, Circle CI, was a fake logging page, Circle CI. DoorDash, Activision, United Nations. Reddit was somebody who was able to compromise an employee account using SMS as two-factor. And my favorite one is Retool. 27 cloud customers, not cloud accounts, like actual customers. 27 cloud customers were compromised. The way that they did this was they phished a employee's credentials, personal credentials, and like I said earlier, the private passkey that you use to sign the challenge that's being sent over the wire was stored in the cloud. We have TPMs. YubiKey has a little thing where it never leaves the device, right? If we put it in the cloud, it leaves the device, and that's a problem. All right, I'm getting depressed. I'm not doing good. Key takeaways. Okay, am I at risk? Listen, traditional MFA is not perfect. Way better than nothing at all. What I would advise is if you already have SMS and you have TOTP and you have all these things already in your environment, it's very important to start looking at what accounts are important and try to start rolling out MFA. If you don't have MFA at all, let's skip these ones. Let's just go straight to phishing resistant. There's no reason. And I think this presentation should have shown you why. My favorite cybersecurity personality is the Gruck. I forget where he's from, Thaddeus Gruck. Anyways, if you Google the Gruck quotes, there's a full GitHub repo full of them. Don't attribute the exploits to what can adequately be explained by password theft, and effective phishing is more important than zero-day. He's got some more funny ones, but they're usually not very okay for a place where respectable people are. He's pretty funny. Thank you. Any questions? Socials are there. Please connect. I didn't know what the blue sky logo is. Turns out there's no logo. So I put in a sky. So I rushed through that, trying to gain some more time. Any questions? Good crew.